Anyone who would like to ask a question or make any observation, please. Is voice carried clearly to the back benches?
Yes.
Right. Yes, Dr. Mujibullah.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. I was hesitant to raise my hand, sir, because I thought better the visitors from the north should come round. But when there was nobody else, then I
Yes.
said. Sir, yesterday I was talking to a non-Ahmadi friend, Pakistani, and he raised we know that it is wrong. He said that you have added the name of the Mirza Sahab, alayhi salatu wasalam, in Durood Sharif. As we know, sir, that we do say, of course, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin wa ala abdikal masih al-maud. And he also said another thing which was, of course, totally wrong, that it is said that you have added the name to your kalima. So I categorically told him that that is very wrong, that we have not added any name of anybody else except for the actual La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, no more no less. But of course I couldn't deny the other. So
You need to deny. This is correct, and not only the Masih the entire the whole Ummah is already included.
this is where, sir, the question is that when Hazrat Masih and everybody else is already included, why should we have to say separately, sir?
Obviously, because some names are mentioned to give prominence. When you say Ala Ali Muhammadin, at other times the Holy Prophet of Islam has told you himself to include other names. For instance, in at At-Tahiyyat, you say Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin. Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin. So why alayna and ibadillahi salihin? That is the same Durood. It started with Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and it became all encompassing. Didn't leave anything out. So particularly Hazrat Masih Maud being his spiritual son, being the one who came according to his own predictions, and who, according to the earlier Muslim saints and scholars, was not to be compared with anyone, any other person of the Ummah. He stood head and shoulder high above others, according to the previous predictions, I mean. And he being the only person to whom Hazrat Rasul Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself sent his salam. Durood is a salam. And you know the tradition where Ahmad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is known to have said that if you find his time, then you reach him, even if you have to go on your knees across glaciers and reach him and convey my salam to him. No, in this tradition, Ahmad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam sent his own salam, and they say that if we say add his name to the salam, there is something wrong?
No, sir.
It's so absurd.
Right, sir.
All they can say is that he is not the same person. They have a right to say that. But those who believe that he is the same person, for them it is essential to send salam to him, because Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself has sent his salam and categorically instructed his own people to do that on his behalf.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, please. ये गिर जाता खुद ब खुद, मेरे हाथ से आगे गिर जाता है। ये देखें, जाना शुरू हो गया नीचे। पीछे करने की कहीं कहा? सख्त कर दें, नीचे रखें। इसमें काफी भारी है। उसको सख्त कर दें। और आगे कर दें। That's not right. Yes,
Assalamu
please.
alaikum.
Salam.
Huzur, usually we use word alayhi salam for the prophets who are dead, but we use this word for Hazrat Jibreel also.
Yes.
If he is alive, why do we use this word?
It is not necessary for somebody to die before you start sending salam upon him. You say assalamu alaikum to each other while you are alive. I mean, salam and death are not necessarily coupled. Who told you that?
Because usually it's used for the prophets who are all dead.
No, for the prophets particularly it is used. But salam is a common word. Salat is also used in relation to ordinary Muslims in Mu'mineen in the Holy Quran. It says that Allah sends His salams and salat on the Mu'mineen, the believers. Whether the word Muslim is used or Mu'min, I don't remember exactly the verse. Do you remember that, please? That is a different verse. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Yes. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. That's right. إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. That Allah and His angels send salat on His Prophet and on those people who believed. So if Allah and the angels send salams, why do we get offended if we send salam to on somebody and it's just small-mindedness on their part, nothing else. They don't understand deen themselves. And when Allah sent salam, they were all alive, you know. So that other aspect is also solved. Any other question, please? Yes.
Some people in the opinion that during the time of Hazrat Masih Maud there was no religion. They used to go to Qadian and they used to say prayer with us. And they used to celebrate all the functions that we used to celebrate. But he said, not one but few people have said that during the reign of Hazrat Muslim Maud the things were changed. I explained them.
I have already had a small booklet published, small, not booklet, but a small size pamphlet published for South Africa, where this fib was spread by Maulvi Sher Muhammad Sahib of Jamaat Ahmadiyya Lahore, and even he had the courage to allege this in the presence of the court. While presenting his case, he put this argument forward that in fact Ahmadis were at one with the rest of the Muslims totally, without any barriers being in between to separate. And even after the death of Hazrat Masih Maud, it continued to be so. But when later on Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Sani Ibn said, when he became the caliph, reacting very strongly to the Muslims not believing in his father, that is the language used by him.
Exactly, that's the way they are.
Reacting very strongly to the Muslims not believing in his father, he started calling them names and said they are kafirs. So in retaliation they also started doing the same. While the hard fact is that even before Hazrat Muslim Maud was born, Hazrat Masih Maud was declared by the mullahs to be a kafir. Even before he was born. And Hazrat Masih Maud repeatedly told them not to abstain from this malicious practice, and repeatedly pointed out that if you do not abstain from this, ultimately, according to Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam's own instruction, I will be left with no choice but to declare that you have become yourself kafir by this act. and giving them a period of consideration which extended over a few years, when he was left with no choice, and when they went on increasing their hue and cry against him and declaring him not only kafir, but one whose life was forfeited, whose honor was forfeited. Then with a heavy heart he declared this decree, which became permanent because it was based on the decision of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. So this is exactly how the history relates. And all these things are published not only in Ahmadiyya literature, but also in non-Ahmadiyya literature. So I have given references to those, and this pamphlet is going to be published and distributed wherever the non-Mubayins are in some strength. Although there are very few places on earth now where they are found in any real strength. But still there are about three countries.
So the second thing is that I used to go regularly to a factory in Birmingham where I had a lot of preaching. And this man in the end, when he could not defeat me, he brought a very big calendar printed from Pakistan where they say the Kufrana Aqaid of Qadiani. And in that calendar, they put so much all wrong things.
Yes, I've seen that. Yes.
Besides Kalma, Durood, then 101 names of Hazrat Masih Maud salatu wassalam, and so many filths. And I couldn't do anything except I say, well, this is all wrong.
That's exactly what you can say.
Just I just want to give that.
Thank you. Any other questions, please? Yes?
This question arose in one of the meetings in Cambridge, which is held monthly. The question is that taking interest is unlawful,
Yes.
whereas everyone gives or takes interest when they buy a house. I mean, you take a mortgage from a building society, and you have to pay them interest.
Right.
The question that did arise was that can that be still stated as unlawful, which is the way, it's the law of the land?
Yes, in fact, it still remains unlawful. Anything declared by God to be unlawful remains unlawful. But God Himself has pointed out to certain extreme situations where, according to His own permission, exceptions can be made. And the example, such an example, is found in relation to the flesh of swine.
Yes.
It is totally prohibited, it is haram, very clearly and repeatedly mentioned in the Holy Quran. Yet at the time of extreme necessity, where you don't find anything else for survival, then that flesh is also, that flesh is permitted for you to be eaten to the quantity that it should suffice you for survival. Now that is a very important indicator applicable to other such situations. That human life is held in very special sanctity in Allah's sight. And such issues as these, where nobody else's right is trampled, there, to save the human life, it is permitted to make exceptions in such injunctions of God, where, as I said, nobody else's right is injured or trampled upon.
Don't you think that law...
Just a moment,
Sorry.
let me finish. Now, for instance, you can't usurp anybody else's right for your own survival. This is never permitted. But things like these, where Allah has stopped you for eating without mentioning the reason why, for instance, and He Himself permits you for your own survival to eat to the extent that it is necessary for your survival. Such cases are different and should be distinguished from the other cases. Now, in a society which is run entirely on a system of usury, it is a similar case, but some Ahmadis do not make differentiations, and this is why I want to speak on this issue to make clear certain very important lines which are to be drawn between legal and illegal, right and wrong. And also I want to make it very clear to how much, to what extent you are permitted to be involved in such cases where usury is also used directly or indirectly. Now, in a system which is based on interest and usury, it is impossible for any man to come out clean entirely. Whatever you do, wherever you are serving, from whichever source you are earning your livelihood, though all these sources are infested with this system, which is as such wrong and totally forbidden. So this is why the Holy Quran addresses the society in particular. It does not address individual as much as the society. The Holy Quran says that you leave this system, otherwise be prepared for waging war against Allah, as if you are waging a war against Allah, and ultimately you will be defeated and punished. On that issue I have spoken elsewhere, I don't want to repeat. But here what I want to point out is the fact that in the world today, not only in this country, even in the Muslim countries, it is impossible for the Muslims living in their own territories to totally avoid this system. Because in international trade, the same is used, and no country can survive totally in total isolation. It is impossible. So the moment you go into the world monetary system, have any dealing with them, that moment you get involved in this system, which is wrong as such. But where you can avoid things, I'm coming to this now, you must avoid them. For instance, an Ahmadi who keeps his money as a deposit in a bank receives interest.
Yes.
That interest is not permitted for him for his personal use. And this has been the tradition of Jamaat Ahmadiyya without exception. Ever since the time of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam, categorically declared it to be wrong. On basis of course on the Holy Quran, not that a new injunction was made, but in explanation of the Holy Quran, he declared this usury system in the modern times to be also illegal according to the Holy Quran. And also he explained that if you get it without your intention, even then it is not permitted for you to use it. All you can do is you can give it for the cause of Islam. And why it becomes valid there, for that he has given reasons and discussed the matter. In fact, it's an economic issue also which is involved here, that money as such is just a buying power which when changes hand, it acquires a different value. So you can't say that this rupiah, this particular pound note has become haram and that particular pound note is valid and legal. So when some money is involved in a wrong transaction, what to do with that money? That is the issue. Yes. If it is not valid for use individually and personally, what can you do with it? There are only two possibilities. either to return it to the people as such, that is the state, or return it to God, which is even a larger, much larger denomination than a state. So Hazrat Masih Maud ﷺ declared this decree that instead of returning it to the state, you return it to God and spend it on His cause. That is the only valid use mentioned by Masih Maud ﷺ vis-a-vis Ahmadis. So there we stand today. But unfortunately, Ahmadis have started taking licenses in this regard, in many other cases too. But as far as these particular examples are concerned, I have repeatedly declared that this is not the forum for asking me to declare a decree on particular cases. If that be the situation, what would be the decree? This is not the right forum. This is a matter which pertains to iftar. And for that, we have to find out all the details about the contract and all the conditions. And also you have to know the necessities which compelled someone, or urgencies which compelled someone to go into a certain deal. So these things are to be balanced very carefully. And then a decree is given whether an exception according to the large principles of Islam can be made in this case or not made. So as far as individual cases are concerned, such matters should be referred to Majlis Ifta or Nazim, not Nazim, but Mufti Silsila. You understand? Now, after this, if you have a question to ask or clarify your question further, you can come again. Because you wanted to speak in the middle, I stopped you.
Yes.
Maybe you wanted to clarify some certain particular aspect of this question.
It also states in the Quran that you shouldn't lead such a luxurious life that you have to take interest.
No, it is not mentioned in the Holy Quran.
Isn't it?
Nowhere, no.
Oh. Well, I withdraw my questions.
Thank you. Right. Yes, please. Hashim sir.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazur. Hazur, I have some observations and questions, and if Hazur permits me to describe a dream as well, so it will be quite a long thing. So whatever.
A long dream?
No, the list is quite long.
And must you tell your dream to all present?
No, it was seen by some other person, and I mentioned to him that I would like to describe this dream to Hazur.
That's all right, but in presence of everybody else as well?
I don't know, Hazur, until I describe.
You know the nature of the dream, I don't know. There are certain dreams which should not be told in public, and they should be told privately, because they may pertain to certain matters individually.
No, also because
to applying to someone where secrecy is required, where secrecy is advised at least.
Yes.
And there are certain dreams which have a community message, or just simple statements of things which people don't understand what they saw. Such dreams can be told, there is no harm.
Because the nature of the dream is that it involves community, hence if Hazur permits, I can describe it.
Okay.
Yes. So this person who doesn't want to declare his name for one reason or the other, saw that a flag is being hoisted in Italy, which is green in color, and twice it has been hoisted very straight up to the top, and there are millions of people who are gathered in that platform where this flag is being hoisted, and somebody is making a declaration that Hazur, that is yourself, Hazur, is going to offer, award a prize when it will be hoisted the third time. And because I thought that the people who are gathered over there are all Ahmadis and non-Ahmadis, Muslims and non-Muslims, and particularly there are people who are not Muslims or Christians but Jews and Hindus, but the country seems to be the Italy. So I thought I will describe this dream to Hazur, and because it belongs to the community as such, and the color is very dark green color of the flag.
Yes, it's a good dream, yes.
Yeah.
Please, now the question.
Yes. Hazur, the question is that in one of the sermon which Hazur delivered on 13th May 1983, and also the
some of the sermons which are delivered on one day.
One of the sermon.
Yes.
One of the sermons, Hazur, which was delivered on the 13th.
Yes. I thought you said some of the sermons. Yes.
Sorry, Hazur. Yes.
Please,
you declared that Ahmadiyyat is, these may not be the exact words, but Ahmadiyyat is like Noah's Ark,
yes,
which has been constructed under the eyes of
exactly,
God.
that's right.
And also Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam written a book named by Kishti-e-Nuh.
Yes.
The destination of the Noah's Ark was a mountain as far as the history is concerned, and they also mentioned the name Judi in Holy Quran. And there were certain events which took place when the Noah's Ark actually departed from its place to some known destination. Hazur, how these events reflect in the history of Ahmadiyyat? Is there a place, is there a destination where this Ahmadiyyat is going to be with respect to the Noah's Ark as we described?
When these things are mentioned, I mean, they are metaphorical expressions in fact. They should not be taken literally, because it's impossible for it to be applicable literally, because all you have to behave like a boat then, and literally somebody should come and sit, and there you do not call for such similarities at all, and suddenly you start thinking of Ararat or Judea and say there should be that similarity applicable there. Why? When in all the rest of the cases the application of this simile remains metaphorical. So why not there? Now Ararat is a mountain, or Judi is also the name of a mountain. That means the mountain, a great mountain which stands out clearly and is not inundated by any flood, gives protection and ultimate shelter to the dwellers of that Noah's Ark. Now, in metaphor, what should be that mountain? If you search the Holy Quran, there you find it. The Holy Quran declares the Holy Quran itself to be bigger than a mountain, stronger than a mountain, because it is said, "Lo anzalna hazal Qurana ala jabalil la ra'aytahu khashi'an mutasaddian min khashyatillah wa tilkal amsalu nadribuha lin-nasi la'allahum yatafakkarun." Had we revealed this Holy Quran to a mountain, that mountain should have shattered under its impact and blown to smithy. Yet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam received that and came out intact. So the Holy Quran is declared to be greater than a mountain. Similarly, in a tradition of Hazrat Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, again a mountain is mentioned which will give shelter to the followers of Masih Maud and him himself. It is said that a time would come when Masih Maud would decide to come to grips with the great powers of the world which will be opposed to Islam. When that happens, Allah will reveal to him that we have created two big nations in this world. They're so powerful and so strong that it is impossible for any man to resist, to come to combat them and to defeat them. So it is also applicable to you. You can't defeat these two great nations. But with prayers, and also if you take shelter by a mountain, again that mountain is mentioned. So that Kashti Nu, this mountain, and the mountain of the Holy Quran, and this mountain which is mentioned in the tradition is one and the same thing. That is Allah's word, protection of Allah's word in fact. The protection which is sought within the Holy Quran. If you stick to this teaching, if you keep the Holy Quran standing behind you, in the sense, not that you have deserted it, but that is, it is supporting you. That is the shelter which will save you from all the perils of the modern times. So these metaphorical statements should be carried out to the ultimate in the same spirit of metaphor. Not that suddenly you shift to a literal translation while you are speaking of metaphor all through.
So the third fact is that there is a problem nowadays in the management, the worldly management, that they want to communicate the message and it doesn't go through to the people to whom they are speaking. So the research is going on in America and particularly in UK as well, that what is that triggers that message to sink into those people to whom one is speaking. And obviously they came out with many examples in the history, and they found out that it is the prophets, the other divine people who, when speak, that sinks down to the people to whom that message is given. What is that power behind that which makes that message convey and goes directly into the hearts?
The question is very simple. I'm wondering why they don't know the answer. The sway of religion over hearts does not require coercion, while the establishment of a government always requires coercions. Coercion is an integral part of a state concept. Without coercion, a state cannot come into being. So where the coercion is an essential instrument for establishing the law, there the law can only reach up to the time where coercion can accompany it. Beyond that, there are barriers which cannot be crossed. But in religion, because there is no coercion, when the people who accept that the yoke of that religion, they accept it of volition. So the message travels according to the own desire of those people who receive that message. There are no artificial barriers where coercion will stop and the message will also stop along with it. So when it is a voluntary basis system, there is no need of coercion and no reason why the message should stop at any place. It has to come from the heart and sink into the heart. So if they have a message to a people who are at one with that ideology, who already believe in it, who agree and submit to it voluntarily, then such stumbling blocks will be non-existent. There will be no such research necessary at all, as we see it in Jamaat Ahmadiyya. It's a voluntary system. As long as they agree with the message and the philosophy, they have to accept whatever I tell them, or whoever is appointed to tell them, and they do it of volition, with happiness, with pleasure. the moment, if, God forbid, a message is, a religious message is wed to a temporal force, the same problems will be faced again. This is why Hazrat Muslim Maud repeatedly wrote about this, that a Ahmadi Khalifa will never accept any temporal authority. He will never become sovereign of a state, because if he does it, then it will be damaging the cause of Ahmadiyyat as such.
But Huzur, in the worldly sense, this voluntary concept doesn't come through, because
I know,
yes,
it doesn't come through, so the research is useless, meaningless. Unless within the overall suprastructure of coercion and state, you find certain avenues within in which you can have a voluntary basis relationship, and that is possible in certain channels in smaller regions. And if you get to define those, then in that smaller area, of course, you will be able to negotiate voluntarily, and the message will be carried to the point where you want it to be carried.
So my last point is the process of receiving the information and changing into knowledge. How do we change the simple information which we hear every day, we read from the books, how it could be converted into knowledge so that it could back be imparted?
How do you differ between information and knowledge?
Huzur, information is a piece of statements drawn from the data, for example. Certain numbers are there, they don't represent anything until we put them in certain order and they give us some information. But I believe the knowledge is when we try to experience it.
No, still I can't find a dividing line between information and knowledge. Your knowledge is does not have only a positive value. Your knowledge also has a negative value. Knowledge of truth and knowledge of falsehood.
Yes.
So information can either be true or false.
Yes.
And as such it will be stored in your brain system, whether you like it or not. So everything gets stored as a memory, and that becomes your knowledge. Any information, for instance, a Maulvi says that Ahmadis are Israel's agents. You call it information.
Yes.
But that false information is received by all Ahmadis and it is stored in certain parts of the brain as a false information. And the sum total of his knowledge also contains this false information.
Yes.
Knowing it to be false, not as believing in it to be true. So in reality there is no demarcation between information and knowledge. It's only a matter of, saying things from one angle or another. So instead of going into this, put your question straightforwardly, whatever it is.
That is, this is exactly what the question is actually driving to, that how one gains knowledge. And when one starts talking knowledge, it's actually the physical things one hears, that one reads a book, but he doesn't gain really the knowledge.
No, again, yes. What is the knowledge? What is knowledge?
Huzur, if I can describe it in an example, like reading the Holy Quran and knowing the verses of the Holy Quran, knowing the numbers of the verses and so on is then information to me. But the knowledge of the Holy Quran is, if God blesses me, then I can get that knowledge.
There you are extending knowledge to a completely different territory now.
Maybe into understanding.
Yes,
yes.
The faculty of understanding.
Yes.
Now you are translating knowledge as a faculty of understanding.
Right. Okay.
This is not so.
Okay. Yes. Yes. I think that's where I might be mistaken. Jazakumullah Hazur.
Any other questions, please? Yes, please. And after all the questions are exhausted, then I'll permit Mr. Bashir here to take over the floor. He's getting very impatient now for his turn.
So my question relates to the acceptance of prayer, and it came out because as a result of a discussion with Nun Ahmadi.
Yes.
And it is related to Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II, that Hazrat Muslim Maud always prayed that he may return to Qadian. And why wasn't his prayers accepted?
No, prayer is not an order. Prayer is begging Allah. So if every prayer of everyone is accepted, then the master-servant relationship will be reversed. Then servant will become the master and God will become the servant. It is absurd to conceive the concept, to conceive prayer to be such a thing. It's not a bidding. It is a request, and a very humble request for that matter. The more humble it is, the greater there is a possibility of its acceptance. So, Hazrat Rasul Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wished so much for the entire mankind to become mu'min, believer in God, and one God for that matter, there and then. Did he not? The Holy Quran records this fact. It is so much desired, he yearned for this. And even today that prayer is not yet accepted. Start from the sources instead of coming to a much later period, then you will understand the phenomena of prayer. The whole Allah answers this question there in this regard and tells Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam that if Allah had so desired, He could have turned the entire mankind into believers. But it is not the design of things. So if you want to change Allah's design, however much you pray, I will not accept. And in another instance, you can understand the psyche of Hazrat, the inner self of Hazrat, how kind and compassionate and forgiving and loving he was. He wanted to pray for certain hypocrites about whom Allah had told him clearly that they are not true believers. Today's mullah declares that the moment you come to know of someone or suspect someone to be a hypocrite, you behead him immediately. And the attitude of Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam as recorded and preserved in the Holy Quran was this, that he wanted to pray for those and Allah was stopping him to pray for them. Yet because he was not ordered categorically to stop praying for them, he continued. So Allah admonished him by telling him that even if you pray 70 times for these people, I am not going to accept that prayer. So stop it. So now what is the concept of prayer now? The dearest to God, the nearest to God, for whom we say and we know, we believe, and we can logically prove that the universe was created. He was the last of things. His prayers in one instance are recorded by the Holy Quran not to have been accepted. In another instance, Allah stops him from praying and warns him that even if he does it 70 times, his prayer will not be accepted. And the response of Muhammad is so wonderful and so beautiful. He took shelter in this excuse that Allah did not say mention an unlimited number of prayers. When he mentioned 70 times, so I'll pray more than 70 times. You see? Yes. So you first rectify your concept of prayer, then such things are no problems.
Yes, but Hazur, the implication there was that Allah would make a distinction or differentiate the true from falsehood, or on whose side he was by accepting the prayer, because
whatever wherever you extend this, there will be a counter argument from the Holy Quran about it. Noah prayed so much, and he wanted this distinction to be made by people accepting him. And God not only forbade Noah to pray, but before his very eyes, he caused his son to be drowned, to declare that your prayer will not be accepted with regard to such people. And right at that moment, he was protesting against this. So rectify your concept of prayer first. Otherwise, there will be so many things which will be out of order and which will not fit with the scheme of things as you observe.
Hazur, can I ask a second question?
Yes, please do.
There are a number of different religions present. The fact that I think it probably leads to my first answer to it as well. The fact that Holy Prophet ﷺ has appeared, his advent has taken 1400 years. Why is it that other religions continues to persist, continues to exist?
This I have already explained. Allah has very clearly made clear his plan of things. Man sha fal yumin wa man sha fal yakfur. And this is the overriding plan. If it's so much so that when Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed and desired so much for this plan to be changed, Allah told him very clearly, no, this choice, this option will remain with the people, and your prayer will not help those who have decided to go astray. So if a prayer interferes with this grand scheme of things, it is not accepted. So this is the reason why we find so many infidels and non-believers and hypocrites and other people of many categories, because they have been given the choice. Now you remove the choice and immediately all the responsibility of the evil will be shifted to Allah's shoulders. So these scheme of things have such basic foundation that they cannot be altered. It's impossible for anyone to alter these schemes, because then a greater evil will appear from underneath them. So you have to accept it. The choices will remain with that person who is also punishable for his actions. It has to be his choice.
Assalamu alaikum. In the Quran, it says that the earth was formed in 2 days, but from scientific investigations, it's been proved that the earth was formed over a period of millions of years.
Do you know what days means?
Probably refers to earth days.
How could God say that when earth was not formed? Because the day and night is a phenomena which is born out of earth's existence, and the moon's existence. Yes. So how could Allah say that in 2 days He created the first things when the days were not created in the first instance? Look, refer to the other verses of the Holy Quran, then you will come to learn that the word yom, which is used, is not used for this day of 24-hour duration at all. The Holy Quran mentions it in more than one place, that the day by which you reckon is a different day from the day by which we reckon. And also illustrates this point in one place by telling us that in some respects Allah's day extends to 1,000 years as compared to your one day. And another place the Holy Quran tells us that Allah's day is 5,000 years long, while your day, you know how short it is. And in another instance, the Holy Quran says, one day of Allah is 50,000 years long. So they are the illustrations of an ascending order without limit. I have worked on this. There are so many signs in these things for scientists and mathematicians to work out many mathematical questions pertaining to the creation of this world and future events as well. But that is besides here the point. The fact is that day is now clearly established by the Holy Quran, when Allah uses it, to be a duration of time which is out of all proportion, bigger than the ordinary days known to us. So after that, this objection falls automatically.
I see.
Right?
Jazakumullah.
Hazur, I have two questions.
Yes.
First one is that do we have any account of as if Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam got married when he went to Kashmir?
No.
This is a question which I have been asked.
This is the answer which I have given. No. No evidence. Thank you.
There's another question.
All right.
It relates to a friend of mine, a colleague who's working with me, comes from Iran, and I have given him the philosophy, the teaching of Islam to read. After reading it, he told me that he had some experience with the Moonies. With the Moonies, the...
Yes, I know, yes.
So, yeah. And according to him, he relates our community very parallel to the Moonies. Everything he read in the book, he always has an answer for me. For instance, about life after death. Can you please tell me how he can relate to our community?
Well, Jamaat Ahmadiyya is first.
Sure.
And the literature of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi, particularly this book to which you are referring, was widely published. And ever since, in the first instance, and ever since, it has been published and has been translated into many languages. So this has left a very deep impression on the thinking of other people. This is a book of such high order. I mean, of course it is according to us, but I mean in relation to others as well, that Tolstoy in that age took notice of this book and said the writer of this book is a very great man. He is not an ordinary person. He speaks with such authority and such dignity on such matters which are so complicated and delicate. So great people of the time of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi, while Ahmadiyyat was not known, could not ignore to take notice of this particular book. So people who came later on, if they adopt the same message, then they owe this message to this book. Whatever has been said first, that cannot be replaced, the order of the first can never be changed later on. So the question is, these good things which you tell them, if they agree to them, still they owe to Ahmadiyya. And if they try to misappropriate them, you can always prove that this was first said by Ahmadiyya unless you prove that your leaders had told the world the same things in a way that they had never come into contact with the Ahmadiyya teachings in any way. Only then you can claim an independent discovery of the same thing. Still the first will remain the first. That order can never be changed.
According to him, he says that Reverend Moon, the leader of the Moonies, went to a mountain in Korea when he was 16 years old, and he met Jesus there, and Jesus told him that he was the third Adam of this day. He has given me two books, one which attracts the Muslim society.
Who has given, somebody has given you, or Jesus had given him?
No,
Yes.
My friend.
Yes.
Apparently, his story is that he comes from Iran. He belongs to a Shia family. So since he's been here, he has disliked the way that Iran is under dictatorship, and he wants nothing to do with Iran.
Yes.
Because of Khomeini's teachings. So accidentally he met the Mauris.
Such claims are made by every religion or people from every religion. So what difference does it make? If 100 people today begin to make such claims, as actually there are so many who are making such claims, then thus the claim itself is nothing. I mean, it doesn't make us believe because a claim is made. What is the proof of the truth? That is the point which is to be discussed. Demand a proof, and demand a proof according to the standards of the Holy Quran, laid down by the Holy Quran.
So although he doesn't practice Islam, but he has the book of the Holy Quran, and whenever I ask him any questions or we have discussions at work, he always refers to certain chapters from the Holy Quran.
In what sense?
And yet...
in what sense?
Things like...
No, what I mean to say is, what is his attitude towards the Holy Quran?
So this is
even, devil can quote from the scriptures. This is a common phrase. The fact is that a person can quote any book, whether he believes in that book or not, just to prove the point to those who believe in such a book. So does he quote the Holy Quran with such a stance that because he knows you believe, so if he quotes the Holy Quran, he can shut your mouth in an argument?
Yes.
Is that the reason why he quotes it?
Yes.
All right. Then how could this create problems for you? It's impossible, because the Holy Quran cannot say anything which is against the belief of Muslims, because their belief is based on the Holy Quran.
Yes.
So how can it create problems for you? This is what I don't understand. If he quotes a verse of the Holy Quran in favor of his view and against your view, then either he has misunderstood and his application of the verse to his view is totally wrong, or your concept of the Holy Quran is wrong there and your interpretation is wrong, and then you should be rectified. So unless you give a definite example, how can I decide about this in generalizations? You write to me, quote certain examples,
Sure.
or come again with definite examples in your jotted down better, and tell me that this is what he has said and I have no answer for this, or this seems to be against my view but I can't find an answer to prove otherwise, and so on. So in that case I'll inshallah tackle those things.
Thank you. He has made a promise with me that inshallah one day he will
If
come
he
to
comes himself,
Madrasa
that would be
Al-Fanis.
ideal.
Yes, I
That
am
would be
trying my
ideal.
best, but I've had a slight problem. At work we have two non-Ahmadi Pakistanis, and during our tea breaks and dinner breaks for the past couple of weeks, we always discuss about Ahmadiyat and in general of all religions. And the other non-Ahmadi Muslims, I think they have, I have offended them in a way that I have been doing preaching to my friend. So they have in a way threatened him that, look, you don't go and sit with that Qadiani, and their teachings are wrong, and their Messiah,
The false claimant.
and his grave is in India, whereas the promised Messiah's grave would be in Damascus. So obviously he is quite scared of them because he's working with them and he wants to be
As
friendly
long
with
as
them.
they put forward arguments, there is no harm at all. It's good. Because the stronger logic would survive and the lesser logic is going to be annihilated ultimately. So what is to fear? If they have recourse to persecution and other things, well, you have to bear with them.
I told him this, that our brothers in Pakistan facing much larger persecutions there. So I told him that this is only a taste of it we face in England. Yes. So he was quite pleased that I told him this. Inshallah, I will bring him to Malaysia.
That's the best thing to do. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hazur.
Now, Bashir Hayat Sahib at last. Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazur.
Wa alaikum. Did you find time to think of questions or not yet? Because you were busy otherwise, you told me last time.
Hazur, this is very old question. Thought of long time. But as Hazur is given some sermons regarding the prayer, this is before prayer we do ablution. So this is regarding ablution.
All right.
Would Hazur kindly guide us regarding the following matters? 1. If after the ablution, wuzu, we are in rows and the namaz prayer is about to start and we become without ablution for some reason, for example passing the air, but not as a permanent ailment, in which case, to my knowledge, ablution once is sufficient before prayer. But in this case, the person is healthy. What the person should do, whether he should start prayer without doing anything or he should perform tayammum. Secondly, the person remembers that he has not at all performed the ablution. Thirdly, if the person becomes without ablution during the congregational prayer, what should he do?
The net result is that if somebody suddenly finds himself without ablution, is it not right? How it came about is irrelevant. So if he finds himself in a part of the mosque where he cannot leave the mosque without disturbing others' prayers, it is, in my opinion, essential for him to remain sitting where he is. But most of the Muslim jurisprudents think otherwise. They think that he should leave the prayer hall at whatever inconvenience he may cause the others, even if we have to push people right and left and carve his way across the long row, still he must go out, refresh his wuzu, and then come back to the same spot and then start saying the prayer, whatever is left of that, This is absurd. It is not based on any tradition or injunction of Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I had that matter investigated, and so far I have failed to have any hadith, any tradition of Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam speaking on this particular issue. So this is a judgment of some great Muslim scholars. I highly respect them, no doubt. But a judgment is a judgment, an individual judgment. On the contrary, I infer from such traditions which are positively known to have reached Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in links. That is, it is established that it was he who originally said such a thing. Not once, many a time, he clearly declared that to disturb the prayer of another person is a big folly. At one time he is known to have said that don't cross the line of one's prayer. Even if you have to wait for 30 days standing at the same spot. That is a way of emphasizing the thing, that to disturb others while they are before their Lord, and it is a Lord-Master relationship, and they are worshipping Him in their own way. Their thoughts should not be distracted, their attention should not be distracted in any way. So this is why complete silence is observed in the mosque. This is why nobody is permitted to cross a line.
then suddenly why one man's prayer gains such importance as he is given the choice to destroy, not only the choice, he is compelled to disturb everybody else's prayer for his own prayer's sake, which is again, just a possibility. He may not come back by the time that prayer is still in operation. There is no balance in it. It seems impossible according to the Islamic teachings, which are so balanced and beautiful, beautifully ordered. So my clear understanding, my clear thinking is that without doubt, unless I find a tradition of Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying otherwise, I'll stick to this. And then even if I understand the phenomena or not, that is not my job then. He knows better, because he is the master of Islam. So in that case I'll bow down, but before that I can't accept this, because I can't agree this could be an Islamic injunction.
I can wait for the questions.
Jazakumullah. Thank you. I know you have no questions left. Otherwise you should. Yes.